Guys of a Certain Age is brought to you by no one. Absolutely no one. Except these dudes walking down memory lane. Now let's head to the studio to see what they misremember next.
It's the podcast where we don't just need a single day to be a fool. It's Guys of a Certain Age. It's April Fool's Day. Every day we turn the microphone on. Robbie Koblenz in studio alongside
Jay Reed.
I mean,
April Fools. It's actually Art Shirley.
It's actually Art Shirley. You know,
That was a good one, though.
I mean, it's really the truth.
I'm telling you, there was, from the time I saw the message until the time I had my first cup of coffee, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, I really thought that somebody was interested in buying the rights to Guys of a Certain Age. Robbie pulled a pretty good April Fool's joke on me.
Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, what I did was I sent in our little private message that, hey, somebody had got an interesting email. Somebody was interested in the rights to the podcast. And both these guys were like, and then I put down the right to not listen.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, fun times.
And I'm still finding myself thinking, hey, is somebody interested in buying the show?
Yeah. No.
Anyway, they're not. Unfortunately.
Hold on. I'm sorry. There. Sorry. Awkward silence as I text somebody else.
Dead air, we used to call it.
Well, it used to be, yes, just fires all morning. I should join a volunteer fire department, I guess. So, but hey, you're retired.
I'm retired now.
How's that feel?
It still feels like vacation. It still does. I mean, it's like I'll get text from work folks, non-work related stuff. I can't talk about that, but I'll go, we'll talk about this when I'm back in the office. And I'm going, I won't be back in the office, at least for 90 days, but I can't be back in there. Actually, we can still have lunch together. We can, I can still, as I said, text back and forth. We just I can't work or consult or train anybody. So.
But you can insult.
I can't insult, and we'll feel free to do that.
But you can't consult.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Has your successor reached out yet this week in a panic, Art?
No. In fact, I took 2 days of vacation. Monday and Tuesday were vacation days, so I was out of the office, although I went back into the office Tuesday and spent a couple of hours there, actually, visiting with work grandbabies and that kind of stuff. But I kept saying, is there something I need to do? Do I need to approve time, or do I need to approve any JVs or any other kind of paperwork stuff I need to do? So no, everything's handled. So it was kind of a nice closure thing. It's really good to feel like everything was under control and in good hands.
So I just want to know.
Brian Utley will be replacing me on the show as well.
Well,
I'll have to do his caricature.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. So, but he has the same hairstyle as Jay. So,
yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
a
little bit more.
Pretty common.
A little bit less hair.
So the question is, how long is your honeydew list at the house?
Oh, it's okay. So it's not that it's growing. There's a couple of things. There's not a whole lot of stuff. Most of the stuff I'm doing are things that I want to do, but because Easter is coming up Sunday as we record, I really don't want to destroy the house before we're having people over, family over. So, so I'm kind of waiting till next week to really start that. I'm kind of taking this week as this is my, fun week, or, not doing much. Although I've been busy every day. I had stuff to do every day. But
other than get up, eat cornflakes, and watch Prices Right.
That's right. Yeah. I have not tuned in to regular daytime TV yet. When that happens, it's like,
it's
okay,
gone.
just forget it.
He's gone.
Give me some slippers and a robe, and just wheel me over to the
fuzzy slippers.
Yeah, fuzzy slippers at that.
Fuzzy slippers. So it's going to be Art, Toolman, Shirley.
Yeah, I don't know why I think I'm going to be handy all of a sudden. Why all of a sudden retirement has made me handy, because I'm not. I don't even know how to do this stuff.
Yeah. You need to come over and apprentice with me.
I know. I've got a cousin that's building a gallery over on his property, and they've asked me to come help out with them, and I'm like, okay, I need to do that.
You can be the holder.
Apprentice. But like my deck at home, we want to redo it eventually, but right now I just need to patch boards, and my biggest problem is I don't have anything to carry lumber home in. So anyway,
Fun, man.
Yeah,
Fun.
so-
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Great little soiree they threw for you.
Oh yeah. They really. We could do a whole podcast about just what a great send off. My folks at Agricultural Communications,
The office of.
which I just call AgCom.
Yeah.
Because I can't spell agricultural. Never could. I sent something out and then, spell checked, got it wrong. Said that I had it wrong again, 11 years in and I still can't spell agricultural.
That's
so
funny.
AgCom, they really did a good job sending me off and I
Is
appreciate
it because you don't have much culture?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be it.
The ag part I always got right.
Yeah.
Agra, got
Yeah.
that part. But
Maybe you can cultivate a little culture while
yeah,
you're,
maybe so, like a bacteria.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. Let's go ahead and jump into what you got for
All
a
right,
geek
Geeks
of the week.
Mine is not geek. It's a geeky news item, but hopefully people know about this. But Artemis II launched yesterday. Successful launch about 5:45 our time, Central Time, from the Kennedy Space Center. Successful launch. Looks like everything's going okay right now. The astronauts, I want to mention them who they are. Reed Wiseman, who's the oldest astronaut to go into space, I think, so far. Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen have all left for a 10-day round trip from the Earth to the moon. They'll go and they will circle the moon a couple of times trying to pick a landing spot for what will probably be Artemis 4 now instead of Artemis 3. And they'll come back. And right now everything's going so well. They lost communication for a while. They've had a toilet incident, which they were able to fix. And I'm thinking, okay, there's a joke in there somewhere, but they've done that. But for me, having seen the 1969 moon landing, almost 7 years old, a few days away from turning 7, playing with my Major Matt Mason toys, it was just really exciting to think about us going back. But what's interesting is finding out, through social media, how many people think we never went in the first place. It's just weird.
How crazy
Yeah,
is
it's just
that?
crazy. And, you've got folks that, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, that somebody asked him, and apparently I was supposed to know the guy that was asking him, but he was, an influencer, athlete or whatever. But, he said, do you really think we've gone to the moon? And he goes, I know we've gone. Neil deGrasse Tyson said yes, and laying out all this stuff. And it's just crazy to me how many people really think we have not gone.
There's an elected official in this county who on his Facebook feed yesterday said, if we supposedly went to the moon 50 years ago and we're spending all this money just to circle the moon, somebody tell me why.
Yeah. If we supposedly went, and then tell me why. Another thing too is I do see that argument. People go, we need healthcare down, we need all these service kind of stuff, but you don't want to cut one of the last pure science kind of things that is going on that the government's sponsoring. You don't want to cut that, and we get so many things from the space program.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. I think we've had an episode about that years ago that we talked about what you got from the space program and how you defend it. There's other things we could cut before we cut NASA and do this, but there'll be a lot. Of course, again, the geeky part of me, as I watch For All Mankind, as that season started back up, I think, how cool would it be to actually have a base on the moon? I think that's actually something that can happen. So we'll see if that happens in my lifetime. Hopefully it will happen in one of you guys of a certain age lifetime, but
I think the idea is to go back to the moon in 28. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, and they're going to try to get it to where it's something that happens, once a year. Obviously 28 is 2 years from now, so it'll take a while to do that. But
I think there's another launch schedule for 27.
27, which will do another pass, I think, at this point, as they continue to try to find the best place. Because wherever they land, I think, is supposed to be where they're going to build the base. So it needs to have, certain parameters and certain qualities that they're trying to check for.
Just watch Space 1999.
That's right.
So,
and gosh, thankfully we dodged that bullet.
That's
It's still there.
So this is a cool. This is not my geek. My geek is more sci-fi related. But Matthew Ramsey, who is the mission manager for Artemis II, is a Mississippi State grad.
How about that? That's very cool.
Pitched for the Diamond Dogs, got a degree in aerospace engineering.
Yeah.
He's from Hernando, bachelor's and master's in aerospace from State. So
That is very cool.
So he's a mission manager for Artemis II, which is
That is very cool.
yeah. I wonder if he snuck a cowbell on or something. So
What is that ringing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Houston, we have a problem.
so this was the largest rocket we've ever produced and launched. Correct.
Uh-huh.
So
And it will be going farther than we've ever gotten. Not further, as everyone says. We can discuss that further, but that's inspired a cartoon that I'm probably doing when I get back home.
So they've got the lineage goes back to Apollo and the shuttle program, because you've got not pieces, parts, but you've got concepts from the whole
things we've learned throughout the years.
the solid rocket boosters, you know. And I was listening yesterday to BBC World Service. They were talking about there was a part issue sometime leading up to 24 hours before.
Yeah.
And so apparently, according to this report, if the spaceship veers off of course and it's going to be in danger of hitting an inhabited area, there's an escape protocol for the crew, but then they'll self-destruct the rocket.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy.
And that, of course, that, you know, a lot of that safety stuff came from the Challenger, which it was hard not to think about as we watched the
go for throttle
the launch. Yep, that's exactly what down. It's like, here we are. And thankfully, and I think honoring the memory of those folks, thankfully it was a successful launch and seems to be on track for a successful mission. So Godspeed, Artemis II.
I tell you what, that was, I was home sick and I saw Challenger.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. My geek's going to be pretty quick. So Doctor Who still does not have a home outside of the United Kingdom. So there was a report that kind of floated this week that Doctor Who may end up with a domestic partnership at HBO Max.
Okay.
Now,
was that where it was for a little while?
So yes,
I mean, before the HBO, what flavor was called at that time?
So what happened when they launched the HBO Now or Then or Go or Behind Play or whichever, and they brought in HBO Max to it, they had licensing for new Doctor Who, and so that lived on the player, on the HBO Max player until 2022, and then when the Disney deal launched, Disney got new Doctor Who, as they call it, with the specials, and then the Shooty got 2 seasons, and that flamed out spectacularly. It was a 25 episode deal that Disney helped co-finance, and the last 4 episodes of that 25 episode run have aired in it's an offshoot called The War Between the Land and the Sea. It doesn't have the Doctor in it, but it takes place in the Doctor Who universe, the Whoniverse. That has already aired on the BBC, and we have no idea if it will ever see the light of day outside of England.
Wow, that just seems strange to me that it's. Of course, maybe it takes a reset. You know, maybe it's going to take a reset.
There's been a lot of postmortems on that show, and the writing wasn't as good as it should have been. Anyway, it is what it is. But yeah, we don't know whether TARDIS will materialize next, but.
Speaking of the TARDIS, this is just as we do, offshoot. I need to send y'all this link. There's a YouTube video I watched about the 25 best space movies. They weren't necessarily going to be sci-fi movies, or science fiction, because our Apollo 13 is in there, which is. Despite what deniers may say, actually happened.
No. Yeah. We were on the plane. Bonnie and I were on the KC-135 where they filmed Apollo 13.
Oh, there you go. That's right. The vomit comet.
Yeah,
that's right. Anyway, so I need to share that with you. We can discuss that at some point. Get your point. There's only one movie I haven't seen, and it's kind of embarrassing that I haven't seen it yet. And probably will watch it sometime in the next day or two. Since
Which one?
The time. Wall-E.
Yeah,
I've not seen that.
Which some folks think it's the best Pixar ever.
That's what I've heard. So I need to see it. And of course, it's available on Disney.
What was number 1? Do you remember?
Yes, number 1.
Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Star Wars: Wrath of Khan.
You mean Star Trek Wrath?
Star Trek, Wrath of God. No, actually, they combined them. Good grief. Okay,
Wow.
it's obviously, this will probably be my last time here on the show.
We are taking applications for a co-host.
Unless we set up me a remote thing from the nursing home. Yeah, I mean, it's just telling you. Yeah.
Star Trek, The Khan Strikes Back.
So what I was thinking is that, they did Star Wars, the entire trilogy.
Yeah.
They lumped them all together. That was number 2. And Star Trek, Wrath of Khan, was number 1. And with his explanation, and I kind of agreed with him.
I can get on board with that.
And in terms of a movie, a really good movie, good story, good director, said the best submarine movie of all time, too. But you had the villain with Ricardo Montalban playing Khan, and it's just, just great.
Boy, he chewed up every bit of scenery.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
it was great.
That's right.
Yeah. What Space Seed, was that the original?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
The original series in the Botany Bay, wasn't that it? Yeah,
the Botany Bay.
Yeah, Alpha Ceti.
I can't remember. It's 4 or 5 because whichever one they were on was destroyed, and then they were. Yeah, so that's what they were on when.
So we won't get into it. We'll talk later, but you've seen Project Hail Mary and loved it, right?
Yes.
So highly recommend?
Highly recommend, yeah. I don't know. Now, you're reading the book or just finished the book?
I finished the book
finished a while ago.
3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah. My sister, Beth, read the book and went almost straight from having read the book to the movie. So I was kind of curious as to how, she was going to react to the movie with so much of the book still fresh in her mind. But she loved it. She absolutely loved it.
Shout out to my good buddy Steve Griffith in Australia, who he and I talked last week, and he loved the book, loves the movie. He thinks the best way to enjoy the whole thing is to read the book, then go see the movie.
Really? Okay, not the other way around.
That was his recommendation.
Okay, I mean, like I said, I read the book when it came out, but had forgotten enough so that, I mean, it seemed very, very true to the book, to the spirit of the book at least. They have to cut stuff. It's even at almost 2.5 hours to almost 3 hours, I think, you got to cut stuff. There was a 4-hour cut that I want to see.
There's a 4-hour cut?
It was originally a 4-hour cut. And,
wow.
And fellow filmmakers told, I can't remember who the director is.
Miller and Lord.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Miller and Lord.
2 guys. Yeah, 2 people. But they said to cut it down. So now everybody's, I want to see all 4 hours. I want to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
And Rocky looked great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, just great.
Yeah.
Just great. Yeah. It's really, the whole thing worked really well.
Yeah.
Very entertaining movie.
Hope to see it this weekend.
Yeah, we may go back and see it again.
All right. We're going to take a break. Yesterday, as we recorded, was April Fool's Day, but it was also the 50th anniversary of a favorite company of ours. Up next. And we're back. And so the company we referenced earlier would be Apple Computer Company.
Apple Computers.
Which started April the 1st, 1976.
Yeah, that's right. And which is hard for, I think a lot of people think, say 1984, the year the Macintosh came out, because that's when it really hit.
Thank you, Ridley Scott.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That commercial. But 1976, and apparently it was just a circuit board. Yeah. They didn't sell it with any kind of pieces or whatever.
The Apple One was basically a homebrew computer club, board that was engineered and Steve Jobs was fascinated with. And they put it all together.
Yeah.
So, did you see the Steve Jobs movie with Michael Fassbender?
I haven't seen either one, that one or the Ashton Kutcher movie. Is the Fassbender one good?
Yeah, it's fabulous. Fassbender should have won the Oscar.
I need to watch both of those. I think both of those would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because I did not realize that. I thought what they sold at first was, I think what I was thinking was the Apple II.
Yeah. The not Seth Rogen. Who's in the studio? He's the studio exec.
Oh, Seth.
Is it Rogen? No, it's Seth Rogen. It is.
In the show, in the studio.
Yeah. Seth Rogen played Wozniak.
In the Fassbender version?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And he nailed it. Yeah. Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
So, but one of the sharks from Shark Tank, I can't remember, had worked for Steve Jobs years ago and has been pushing out on socials just these anecdotes. And Steve was not a very nice guy.
No.
At times.
Yeah.
But
I think that's we've all heard that before.
One of the greatest visionaries. So,
who's the guy from Pepsi that kicked him out? John Scully.
And Steve Jobs goes to Scully and says, Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or you want to come work with me, help change the world?
Yeah, that's what they interviewed. I saw the Scully interview as part of the 50th anniversary thing, and he mentioned that quote. I mean, he quoted Jobs as saying that to him, and he said, he came back 11, 12. He was fired, came back 11, 12 years ago after working at Next, and Scully said he was still the same visionary, but he had matured enough to actually run the company. Yeah. So I thought that was a good observation.
They nixed Steve. They ousted him because he was, I think if the word mercurial has a picture of Steve Jobs in the dictionary. And, if you recall, he took the Macintosh. He did not start Macintosh. Lisa was his pet project.
Right.
And it bombed. And he went over and kind of took the Macintosh team. They hoisted a pirate flag there at their building, and they took this all us versus the world and came out with something incredible,
and including their own company as the world. They were us versus
absolutely, absolutely. And so in the Macintosh, incredible, stole a lot of stuff from Xerox PARC, but it introduced the idea of a graphical user interface. So,
that's what I was talking to Becky about, because I was asking her what she thought was the most important device, or the one that Apple did that whatever, and I won't reveal her answer till we get into this later. But I said most of what they've done is taken an existing product. In fact, maybe all of what they've done is taken an existing product and made it better. Yeah, the personal computer was already there. They made it better and made it something that everybody had in their home. Helped to make it everybody.
No.
Oh, that's right.
The Apple II predates the IBM PeepC.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so I'm still thinking Macintosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you'll remember, the Apple II, specifically the Apple IIe, sold gangbusters in education.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And I forget. I guess I discount that.
That company was built upon the Apple IIe, and then the Mac comes, and then to Windows follows later.
So the personal computer is Apple IIe, but personal home embracing of the technology is probably from the Macintosh.
But if you'll recall, the Steve got more and more belligerent. The board forced him out, and of his position, whatever. He wasn't CEO. He may have been COO. I don't know what his official position was, and but he still had all his stock. He sold all his stock except for one share.
Wow.
And he went and founded Next, which was the next evolution of the Macintosh. And then Apple went through a variety of CEOs. You had Michael Spindler. You had he ended up with Dr. Gil Amelio, who had been at Motorola. Smart guy, was not a CEO, and they were floundering. If you remember System 7, which was kind of the benchmark, but had a lot. It was the operating system for Mac that was great, but had lots of problems. Yeah. And they bought Next to get the object-oriented code to be able to build a modern operating system that truly multitasked. And Steve came along with that.
Yeah. Does that become System 9?
System 8.
System 8. Okay.
System 8. Well, there was a System 8.
And then System 9. System 9, I remember being just like a really good.
I don't remember a System 9.
So was it System 8?
I think they went from 8 to 10.
Okay. Whatever their last thing was, I thought they had a 9 in there, but maybe it was 8. But whatever it was rock solid for a long time. Just really, really good. And then, of course, was it 10 that kind of really changed things around?
Yeah.
Because so whatever they had. And it was based on System 7. So it was like System 7, I guess, was the core of what was so rock solid for a long time.
And then OS 10 was the next code that was completely rebuilt. Gil Amelio had moved them from Motorola 6800 processors to the PowerPC, which was a whole nother thing. I mean,
he also licensed out the thing, so you had third parties making.
Spindler did that. Amelio killed that.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, I believe.
I have no memory.
Yeah, because they had the common. Gosh,
that's right.
Man, I'm geeking out here because I haven't studied all this, but it's all coming back. So they had what they were calling the Common Hardware Reference Platform, the CHIRP, which could run Windows or Mac that they're trying to push out, and Amelio killed that. Then they had 14 different machines, right?
Yeah, but I can't remember what was the company that came out that really kind of took their. It was a different hardware company that was doing stuff, and it wasn't the PowerPC, but it was something I can't remember what it was called. But it was,
you had PowerPC.
Was that a company?
Yeah. Okay. They were called PowerPC, but there was it Power On?
I can't remember.
It was
Power something.
And then there was another clone manufacturer.
Yeah.
There were 2 clone
and
manufacturers.
a lot of people started buying those.
Yeah, because they're a little bit cheaper.
They're a little bit cheaper and not a bad machine, I don't think. But yeah. Anyway, so Emilio killed that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Jobs comes in, ousts Emilio, and he becomes interim CEO, convinces the board to put him in as interim, and then they kill the product line, right? And they come up with this famous 4-quadrant strategy. We want a pro laptop, pro desktop, consumer laptop, consumer desktop. Right. The iMac.
The iMac. That's what I said. Benchmarks you're talking about. You've got the Lisa, you've got the first Mac.
Yeah.
And then you've got the iMac.
The iMac, which changed the fortune. And at that point, they announced it. It was the all-in-one translucent Bondi blue where you had the handle. You could pick it up and go. And college kids loved it.
Yep.
And if you recall,
we had a couple of those in the workplace.
Yeah. Bill Gates, Microsoft invested $150 million into Apple at that time in order to get some code, some license and patent deals because there was some patent infringement between the 2 companies. And then it took off from there.
So what was the Pro product at that time?
So it was a...
was it the G4?
Yeah. It was Power Mac G3.
Okay, so G3.
Yeah.
And then, but
which had the same hand. I've got one in there.
Yeah.
That same handle. So you had the Power Mac G3.
And you had the sidewall that completely fell down.
That's right.
And so you could put stuff in it. That was a great. I love that computer.
Yeah. So you had the G3.
Okay.
You had the iMac. You had an iBook.
Yes, which was the first iteration of the iBook that looked like the iMac at that time.
A toilet
seat. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I think I've got one in there.
Yeah. And their later white plastic iBook. That was my first Apple computer to own, and that's not true. But anyway, that's the first laptop to own.
Then they had the MacBook, and then that was the category. Then the iPod, which they didn't know that they had lightning in a bottle.
Benchmark kind of thing.
Yeah, and then the iPod led to the iPhone.
Yep.
And the
iPhone begat the iPad.
Yeah,
but
Well, so what's the first Apple machine that you remember?
The first one was the Macintosh, the '84 Macintosh. George Abad, friend of the show.
Hello, George.
Had one, and he was. I guess we were both seniors at college, maybe. Yeah, maybe just out of college. He had one, and I remember going over there and playing around with it. That's really. Other than the Trash 80 that my father had, that's the first computer I had with the graphical user interface and the first mouse thing I used. And he had, Mac Paint on there. So I drew stuff on there. I still got printouts of that.
Yeah.
And regretted showing it to me because whatever we had planned for the day was shot because I spent the whole day, playing on
George,
that.
look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Seriously, that's exactly what it was. Oh my gosh.
Poor George.
Yeah. And then, that was the first one I played around with. Now we had an Epson PC because our first personal computer, Becky and I did at home because she had to have something that ran Windows.
Yeah. I remember playing with an Apple IIe in school, but the first Mac I really got into, I worked at the Meridian Community College Media Center as kind of a staff video producer, and we got an Apple IIX.
Yeah.
And we got a Targa graphics card in it that would do 640 by 480 NTSC video, which was unheard of at the time. It looked like crap.
Yeah.
We used this program called Macro Mind Director.
Yeah, I know that.
To try to do animation.
Yes.
And I remember using doing a couple of animations for a couple of spots I did that were cheesy, but folks thought they were great.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mac 2FX is the first one I had at work. I left Memphis where we were not using computers.
When I left in Memphis.
That's right. To come to Bryan Foods in West Point in 92. And they had a Mac 2FX that was wicked fast.
Yeah. So what was the Apple product? See, what was my first Apple you used? What was the first Apple product you owned?
The first Apple product I owned was, was a Quadra?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Quadra. And so I had that. That was the first one I owned.
I was going to buy a Quadra used, but from a friend of a friend, but he sold it before I could get any money. So I ended up getting a Power Mac 8180, so the new Power PC, and with a Video Vision card, and started learning nonlinear editing on it, and that was a beast of a machine back in the day.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I remember I spent $1,000 for a 2 gigabyte SCSI drive to do video.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah, the SCSI stuff. And I've still got some of those cables and boxes. I know you do too, because I've seen them. But the SCSI thing was just, and so when FireWire came out, it was like, oh my gosh, you can daisy chain this.
Well, I don't know. Do you remember ADB, Apple Device Bus?
Yes.
Their version of networking, and it was a pain in the butt.
Was like a serial looking kind of?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And but USB kind of changed everything. FireWire changed everything. So what is your favorite Apple product of all time?
So we'll do two things here. Favorite product of all time is probably the iPad Pro.
Yeah.
Because to me, that opened the door to being able to do drawing, on it without being tethered to a computer.
Yeah.
I could sit and I could do high-end illustration on it. With the pencil added to it. Now, granted, we've talked about this before, but the surface is still too slippery. I'm going to go see if I can find one of my glass protector screens to put on it now. But to me, that's my favorite. I was able to read comic books. I was able to watch movies. It was just to me a perfect device. So that was probably my favorite.
It's a toss up for me between the original iPhone. Mm-hmm. And then AirPods.
Yeah. AirPods are great.
AirPods.
You sold me on AirPods.
I tell you.
There's so many products. I mean, that you talk about products you use every day. The iPhone to me is the most impactful device they've ever made.
Yeah. Me as well.
Yeah.
Me as well.
And I use it every day.
Yeah.
Now I've got an Apple Watch and I've got AirPods and I use them every day too, but probably probably detrimentally so. Nothing to the effect of the iPhone.
So,
although I hardly ever make a call on it.
Yeah. So for me is, if I left it at home, am I going to stop immediately and turn around and go back?
Good point. Yes.
Yeah. AirPods may or may not. Apple Watch. Okay. No. I left it at home. Phone. Got to go get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you've got music in your pocket. You have a computer. You have everything in your pocket.
And we've joked about how, well, if only there were a device we could use to look up these facts. And we don't. Yeah. But other than that, all day long I'm looking up stuff. Can't watch a movie at home without scrolling and seeing what this actor or actress been in. Anything that comes up, I do that. Texting back and forth is my primary form of communication with anybody. Primary source of information, entertainment. I'll watch YouTube videos on this thing all night. And again, my AirPods for me are really something that's kind of relegated to at home at night kind of stuff. And I need to start using them more because whenever I'm watching something, especially as my hearing degrades, whenever I'm watching, that's right. Whenever I'm watching something and go, I can listen to this through my AirPods. And it's just a great experience that way.
I've got AirPod Pros 2, which I really, really like.
That's what I have as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will walk around almost all day with them in because number one, if I'm running, I'm going to listen to something. If I'm on the phone, I'm on the phone a lot. It's just they're.
Do you wear both when you're running, or do you try to keep one out?
I want to wear both because I'm able to hear through. I do the transparency mode.
Do the transparency mode. Yeah. See, I love to do the noise canceling mode if I'm on a flight.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
I'm just sitting there, of course, I'm sitting there pulling them out and putting them back in and going, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so I showed it to Becky. That's what convinced him. I mean, not that we fly that often, but that's what convinced her to get some as well because she was like, oh my, this just, you don't hear anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, even the engine noise is just a bare rumble.
And when you take them out, you're surprised how loud the cabin is.
Yes, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. 25 years ago, if you would have told me that Apple would be one of the largest companies in the world, I would have been like, whatever. Thought they'd be a niche player, but they continued to innovate. Yeah. The MacBook Neo that just came out.
Yeah, I really found myself looking at that because I'm thinking $500.
It's like an iPad with a keyboard.
It's like an iPad. That's what I've read is that is this acknowledging the failure of the iPad to become its own computer. Well, I never looked at the iPad as its own computer anyway. It did a lot of things I wanted to do that I didn't need a computer for anymore. But more often than not, if I need to do really, serious work, I'm going to go to a computer and do it. And a lot of times a desktop, but a laptop I can do as much as I need to do too.
Well, you think about it, Apple has developed their own chips because for years they were beholden to Motorola and then the switch to Intel, which Steve Jobs brokered.
Yeah.
And then as the Intel chips just did not keep up with AMD chips, they decided we're going to make our own.
Yeah.
And they're able to take the miniaturization form factor, what they're doing with their iPad, iPhone chips, and make them pro. Yeah. Oh my goodness! I mean, the MacBook Neo has the A18 chip in it, which is the same chip that runs an iPhone 17.
Yeah, yeah.
So
and
for $600,
I know it's crazy.
I mean, that's a Chromebook, okay?
Yes. That's a Chromebook, and you've got a full-fledged MacBook on there. Now, granted, the RAM's not what it needs to be, but I understand they're doing some stuff with memory that makes that a little less a problem than it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
So,
8 gigs of RAM on a Mac is really...
and it's got, it's got Thunderbolt, what is it, USB-C or Thunderbolt?
It's USB-C.
Okay,
USB-C
fast enough
4.
to put a SSD card in there and offload files and work that way if you want to.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So,
I saw I think it was the president of Acer, the CEO of Acer, who's like basically said, "Oh crap."
Yeah, nobody
saw this coming.
Yeah. Well, I have my main computer at home is a Studio with an M2 chip in it, which still serves me very well. I mean, I'm really impressed with that. In fact, we've talked about this before. I do not miss not having an NVIDIA card because, it runs so quickly on most of the stuff that I don't notice the lag. I have a PC laptop that actually, it's my mother's laptop that I use to do a lot of stuff for her on it. And I got it because it was cheap. Now I'm thinking, dang, I would have gotten, if this had been around, I would have gotten this in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
In a heartbeat, and felt like, okay, I can do everything I need, because most of what I'm doing is online anyway.
And everything's platform agnostic at this point.
Absolutely.
You don't really have, you do have Windows and PCs versions of, but it's not like it was 15 years ago.
Right.
So,
one device we didn't mention that I do use every day is an Apple TV.
Okay.
So, but I will say, I've got a Fire Stick that serves me just as well, but I still like the Apple TV. Probably is that's replaced my cable box.
Yeah.
But
the interface is great.
But you forget about it.
Yeah.
You absolutely forget about it. It doesn't seem like a device that you're using. It just seems seamless, which is what the point of it should have been. So it's good.
And the Apple TV service, which used to be Apple TV Plus. Again, it's nuts how much they permeated popular culture, and they've been leaders, not reactionaries. And they would take an existing product category and then they would leapfrog 3 steps ahead.
Yes, that's what they did.
Yeah, that's what they did with the BlackBerry.
That's right. Yeah, which I still need to watch that movie BlackBerry to see what's that about. But I got a lot of movies I need to watch.
Yeah, you have plenty of time. Or at least until you get your updated honeydew list.
That's right. Or Becky retires in another month, and that'll be great because then we'll both be able
now
to
tell us how you really feel, because she doesn't.
No. I think the problem is, the hard part for her is that I'm home and she's not, and because she's so ready to be retired. And so she's going to stay until like early May, and then she'll be through, and then we'll be able to go do stuff. So that'll be good.
Yeah, hypothetically.
Hypothetically. So I want to try to get as much done as I can beforehand,
which means watch as much as you can beforehand. All right. Any parting Apple thoughts?
Well, I'm just going to take it full circle as we do Artemis, and think about Apollo. We've got more technology, more computing power in our hands, in our back pocket or whatever, than the Apollo lander had. But I know that the thing comes up all the time, but that is absolutely crazy. But it's a cool world.
Yeah. It is a cool world. All right. Hopefully we'll have Jay for an episode soon. We'll see you then.